Ojeda from Twisted Sister, and you're watching Game Changers live with Vicki.
Yay!
Yay!
Okay, so, yay! So hopefully everybody's back. This is such a, this is just such a pain in the neck. Hang on, I got to mute.
Yeah, you got muted.
It opens a browser on Facebook, and then we hear ourselves. So I just muted myself so I could. Don't ask. It's Eddie.
Okay.
I need a crew. I need to be back in the studio with people. You did it once before with my daughter, working the camera in New York.
Yeah, she did a good job.
She did. It was really funny when she turned the thing around the wrong way.
Yeah.
It's still buffering on my computer, but I'm going to assume
buffering.
It's like, buffering. It's
like the aspirin.
That's right, like buffering. Okay, so they can hear us. I see a yay. So hopefully, and now I'm changing it to public. I have to set a video that we're live so everyone will know. So Eddie, all right, we're starting over. I deleted the other video. So let's start from scratch. So
all right.
Tell everybody why you moved to Nashville, because we missed that.
Basically, I moved to Nashville because my son moved here first.
How long ago did he move there?
He moved here about 5 years ago.
Yeah, and why is he a musician, Eddie?
He plays, but he's more of a tech geek,
Oh.
That's what he does for a living. But he does like play. He plays guitar. He's had some band stuff, but that's not what he wants to do for a living, I think. So it's different. But after he had a baby 2 years ago, that was the deciding factor to move down here. Right. Plus, I wanted to change. I was tired of the weather in New York, the snow. The weather here is much better. The winters are very mild. So that was a big thing too.
Because we're getting old. Okay, so I just saw you had foot surgery.
No, we're getting vintage, not old.
I like that. We're getting vintage.
Like I like a good bottle of wine. Yeah.
I like that much better. And
much better.
You don't really drink wine, do you? Do you drink?
Yeah, I like wine.
You like wine. Okay, but you never had like a substance issue.
No. I mean, on the road, there was a few times I drank a little too much, but I was able to control it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
I've had some stupid nights.
Well,
I mean, it's rock and roll, man. You can't avoid it. Oh, I can't hear you now.
I know. I just purposely muted again because we were buffering again. We're fine. So you had some stupid nights. Did you ever like fuck up on stage because you were loaded?
No, that's one thing for stage. I mean, there was a couple of times that I maybe drank a little bit too much before a show, but for the most part, I never really drank. I used to like after the show, then you could celebrate. You got plenty of time. Why do it, before a show? I mean, just maybe a glass of wine just to feel more relaxed.
Right.
But and I used to have like beers on stage, but I barely drank them because I would have to piss. It's true. And you're on stage for 2 hours. You can't go to the bathroom.
Yeah, not a fun thing.
I could only take little sips just to keep me hydrated. But the last song, I would down the beer.
Oh yeah.
I would down both of them. There were 2 beers, but they were like all warm. And it was spill.
You look better than I've seen you look in like 30 years. You look great. You look like a kid. You look like a kid rock and roller still.
Well, thank you. I try. I try to stay active.
Okay, so if I remember this correctly, you're a bike rider. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah. Bicycle.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are you bicycle? Right, bicycle. Are you riding?
Yeah, very much so. I just did a pretty good ride today. Yeah.
How's the weather down there? It's very hot in New York and stuff.
It's hot. Today's not that humid. It's like 90 degrees, but it's bearable. I mean, it was hot riding, but that's a good thing. You sweat a lot. And,
it's a good thing.
When I bike ride, I just kind of forget about everything. I just go into another place. It's amazing. You know, so it's
Okay, so
really, for
how
me,
did
it's
you,
almost
wait,
like meditating, you know?
I speed walk meditate. How did you, what, did you always ride a bike? Was that always your
Yeah, I
passion?
was always into it. One time, you know, I was racing bikes. I used to get into a few races,
Wow.
and I actually wanted to do it for a living, you know, for, for a while. But I had
Wow.
to choose between that and music because, you know, and at that time there wasn't the kind of the sponsors and the support, you know, to
Right.
be get into like a Olympic bike riding or do the Tour de France
Right.
or France. I mean, that's always a bike ride I wanted to do, but unfortunately, it's doing the music was a better choice because if you want to do it for a living, you got to really, you got to. It's a serious thing, and like I said, the opportunity wasn't there. So, but I liked it that much.
So were you always, okay, so when you ride now,
Mhm.
how long will you ride? How many
I try
miles?
to do 10 miles.
And
I
how
used to
long?
do. I used to do like 40 miles 3 times a week.
Wow.
I used to
Wow.
ride from the Bronx all the way to New Jersey and back.
Okay, Bronx boy. You know, I'm a Bronx girl and I didn't know this about you. Where are you from in the Bronx?
I used to live on the Grand Concourse,
Me too.
174th Street.
780 Grand Concourse, right by the courthouse.
Really? Because I was the Lewis Morris building.
Okay, I was only like 7 when we moved away, but right by
Yeah.
Yankee Stadium. So you were further
Yeah,
down.
you were down by 161st Street.
That's correct.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of people. I lived there. I mean, I was raised in Manhattan, but we moved to the Bronx while I was still in high school. So I just kept going. Just I used to take the bus to school, but
Where in Manhattan did you grow up?
like 140th Street
And
between Riverside Drive and Broadway.
wow, because I
Basically,
ended up
you know, it was kind of the Heights, the beginning of the Heights,
right.
and maybe part of Harlem. It's sort of in between.
Yeah.
It was a very Latino neighborhood. In fact, I thought everybody was Puerto Rican and Cuban when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I didn't realize there were other people.
But you were born here. Yeah.
I was born here. Yeah, I was born in the Bronx, in St.
Okay.
Luke's Hospital.
And so because we got the good accent. We got that accent thing going on. So
People say that they say you sound like Al Pacino. I'm like, I don't
you
hear
do
that.
sound like Al Pacino. I never thought of that. You actually look a little like Al Pacino too.
I get the Al Pacino, David. Used to get Robert De Niro a lot
Ooh.
sometimes.
All right.
Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, and John Travolta.
Yeah. I watched a Travolta movie last night. We're going to talk about what you binged through the thing too. But wait, I want to go back to bike riding. So does this keeps you in good shape? I assume that you
It,
didn't have
it it does.
opening
I mean,
arm.
it's not as intense as running, but running is, you know, it's low impact. So I enjoy bike riding better because it's you have to. It's good to work out where you don't feel like you're working out. You
Absolutely.
know, it's like you're just having fun, and bike riding is that. So I don't think of it as working out. I just think of it as having fun. You know.
I love that. So did you do it during the height of the pandemic? Were you still riding your bike?
Yeah, in the summer, because I mean, there was nobody around anyway. So, and some of the bike trails, it's so desolate. You know, there's not many people.
Right.
So there's a really nice trail here called the Bicentennial Trail,
Uh-huh.
and it's about 10 miles long, and you know, it's just people walking and bike riding, so it's pretty safe. But
So at the when the pandemic first hit though, did you stay home? Were you in lockdown? Did you lock down?
yeah, but bike riding was outdoors, so I could do that, you
Right.
know, without worrying. But yeah, it was locked down and wore a mask all the time when I went out. I was
Did you
very careful.
did you grocery shop or did you have stuff delivered?
Well, what happened was they were doing these curbside things. So you could order your food and just pull up and then, you know, you text and let they know you're there and they come out and put the stuff in your trunk. So it was like touchless, which I kind of dig. There's a couple of things like that I didn't mind. Like, you know, I just drive up and they would bring it to your car, you
Yep.
know, so That they should keep.
Well, they have out here.
They
They
have, yeah.
Yeah, and there are people, I never did that. I was having everything delivered. The only drag was that not picking out my own produce. It was like sometimes the produce was kind of gross. It
Yeah, you
depending.
gotta be, yeah, that's something you gotta be careful with. But you know, anything else that's boxed items and bread and stuff, that's easy to just pick up.
It
So
is.
that, you know, that was I kind of I dug it. I mean, and of course a lot of the, I mean, Amazon, they cleaned up. They definitely cleaned up with me.
They did. Yeah, everything. I mean, buying everything from them. So are you going back into stores now?
Yeah, yeah.
What's it like in Nashville? Are you no more masks? What's going on there?
Yeah, they stopped wearing masks. I mean, there's still some people that it's their choice, people
Right.
that aren't vaccinated. I think sometimes when people see you wear a mask, they think you're not vaccinated, which
Ah,
is not the case, I think.
right. Uh-huh.
That's, but you know, I don't wear a mask because I'm vaccinated and I feel like I'm pretty safe at this point.
Have you gone to like a movie theater yet or a
Yeah,
club?
I went to see In the Heights, you know.
Okay, all right. So tell me, what do you think? How was it? I haven't watched it yet.
Oh, I think it was a pretty awesome movie, you know. I mean, that's where I grew up.
Yes.
So, and I went to high school, George Washington High School, so I know that neighborhood really well. So, uh, and even like the pool, I remember that pool, High Bridge Pool, and where they did some of the filming. And you know, if you're Puerto Rican, it's like you have to watch it. You know, it's like it's
It's
mandatory.
required viewing. Yeah, it's required. Did you see Hamilton?
I saw it when it was on Disney Plus. I didn't. I finally got to see it, and it was also pretty cool. I kind of like uh, In the Heights a little better, the music wise.
Really?
But
Oh,
they're both awesome. I feel bad that Lin Manuel got a bad rap for not, you know, not being, you know, versatile enough or showing enough. I thought he did a great job as far as showing the different types of Latin people, not just people say he didn't show enough Afro Latin people.
really?
And yeah, which I think, I mean, you know, especially Puerto Ricans, it's a rainbow race. You know, you have people that are, you know, blonde, blue eyes to people with, you know, dark. I mean, it's just, so he represented very well. And, but, you know, people just love to say
Yeah,
something negative.
yeah.
So
So how was it being in a movie theater again?
there was nobody there. It was like five people there. I went,
Really?
it was a matinee and I went from the first day it came out. You know, I got a support.
Right,
And I wanted to see it in the theater, even though you could watch it on HBO Max.
right,
I had to have the big theater with the sound. And there was maybe, it was the first day, the first showing
right.
when it came out. So there was maybe another 8 people in this big theater. So it was
Oh,
pretty empty. So
I'm still
it was like a private showing. You know?
okay. So Lee Sklar is saying hi, by the way.
Okay.
Um, so hey Lee, so are you eating in restaurants? Are you back to doing everything?
Yeah, I'm taking it slow. We just went to a restaurant this week with my son. I kind of, we didn't get together for Father's Day, so I got together with him on Tuesday. But I think a lot of people had the same idea. Like
Oh,
instead
really?
of doing it on the day, you do it a few days later or before.
Mm.
So, and the restaurants are pretty crowded in downtown. Like it's, you know, you would never tell. It's just packed. It's a
Wow.
little too soon for me to go into big crowds, you know, but I mean, it's back to normal. So at least it's great, especially a lot of musicians here who have to play live. That's what they count on for a living,
And
you
so is
know.
all of that going on again? Are all the
Yeah,
Nashville
it's all
clubs?
on. It's all on. My
Wow.
son was down there. You know, he went for to hang out with a couple of friends last week, and they said it was packed,
Wow.
really
Wow.
packed.
And
Yeah,
what is his you said he's a techie. What is his area of expertise?
he's a writer, so he writes a lot of technical stuff for the, you
Li-
know, for
Like what?
Ashurian. He works for Ashurian. You know, he's very good at writing. He like stories and stuff like that. He was an
Right.
English major. He kind of like really did well with that. So, you know, they put him into that. So he does a lot of writing for them.
For who?
Ashurian. They're like Verizon insurance company.
Cool. And so the music scene is just something that he does
For fun.
for fun, because
Yeah.
he's practical and he has a baby and he is a grown up.
Right. But you know, he's a really good writer as far as he's got some great stories. And I tell him, write a script and I'll send it. I know people that, but he always just doesn't follow. I'll get him to do something soon because he's got a couple of really good stories that he came up with.
That's excellent. And is it a
Yeah.
granddaughter or a grandson that you have?
Grandson.
A grandson. Well, I'm so happy for you. And so, and your daughter's is she back working on sets
Yeah,
again?
she's working. Yeah, because they check them every day. Even during the pandemic, they were tested every day, like the quick
Right,
test, and they
right.
were wearing masks and doing everything. So she was pretty busy. And now it's like off the hook busy.
Well, and she didn't get sick during that.
No, she never got it. She
Thank
never
God.
got it.
Okay,
So
that's really good.
she was
And
out there. She worked on a lot of big films, you know.
is she on something specific right now?
Um, I think she's doing another thing on Netflix. A lot of Netflix shows.
That's good. And they're good to
Um,
people.
yeah, I forgot. I know she did the Godzilla. She worked on that. She worked on the new Fast and Furious number
Nice.
9.
Mhm.
Number 9. Yeah, number 9.
Nine, yeah.
So remember that number 9. Number 9.
Oh, yeah.
That's a Beatles thing.
Yes.
Maybe somebody will figure that out.
So I saw Will Lee and those guys and Jimmy Vivino do the whole White Album, and they did that whole thing exactly note for note as it was on the album, which was
I
crazy.
think I saw that
Did you?
with the Fab Four, right?
Yeah, the Fab Four. Yep.
Yeah, they do a great job. I like the way they say, because they have a lot of guys in the band. It's like 12 guys. They said it takes 12 guys to copy
To
the
do the
Beatles
Beatles.
song.
Did you have like a Beatles story with the Beatles? I'm thinking that the Beatles were kind of was that what got you motivated to get into music?
Definitely. I was one of those, the Ed Sullivan Show, the Beatles, a lot of guys, that changed everybody's life. So it was one of those things and I actually met John Lennon once. That's my Beatles story.
Okay, let's hear it.
All right. This is like, I was in the record plant. I was recording with this guy named Joe Sylvia. He wrote Things Go Better with Coca-Cola. Remember that song?
Of course.
So he made like $1 gazillion for that, doing that. So
Right,
he got into producing, and I was in a band called SPX at the time. And we
right.
were actually in the same studio, and John Lennon was in the next studio doing I think the album Women's of the World or something. Anyway, he was doing his new album that was to be released. So, but I never thought I'd meet him maybe in the hallway or something. So
Right.
I'm standing there listening to a playback, and this guy comes up right next to my face. And I think he just liked freaking people out. So, and I had smoked a little something there, so I was like in the with my eyes closed listening to the movie. All of a sudden somebody says, "Hey, are we in Studio A or Studio B?" And I was like, "I don't know." I said, "Oh shit." Like all of a sudden I look, it's like, oh my God, John Lennon's in my face.
Holy
So
shit.
I just went, I don't know, we're in this studio. And he goes, "Okay." And he walks out. I'm like, holy shit, that was John Lennon in my face. And I said, I know I'm gonna make it now. I'm in the same studio with John Lennon. He just came up to me.
Holy
So,
shit.
but it
And
was
when
a
you
quick thing, but
okay,
at
so
least
because you're a guitar player, was John your favorite Beatle? I mean, what was
actually Paul was my favorite Beatle, even though he played bass. And of course I really liked Harrison, but for some
oh,
reason I was kind of more of everybody had their favorite Beatle. I don't know if you had one, but
George was my favorite, actually. And I don't know
George,
why I asked if John was yours, because you're a lead guitar player. So of course I would assume that George
he
would
was
be.
my second favorite. Well, I don't know. Lennon was. I kind of liked them
Hard
equally,
not
but
to like them all, isn't it?
yeah, I like all of them. I mean,
So is that when you started playing, after you saw the Beatles?
well, that's when I got more serious.
You
As
were
far as
already playing?
I was already playing. I think I was like 14 or 15, and I
Wow.
had like,
What
huh?
started you playing?
Well, I always liked guitar, and I had like a toy guitar that my father gave me, but then I ended up buying, an electric guitar, like a cheap electric in Times Square. It's like
Uh-huh.
$40. I still have the guitar. It was made in Japan,
Yeah.
cheap guitar, but it was good enough to learn on,
Uh-huh.
and after that, I said, let me buy a real guitar I can play. And so I started playing seriously. And then I got into started getting into bands, working with different guys, and eventually just took it more serious. And I would definitely say they inspired me to do that. And so many people, that changed a lot of people's lives that performed when they came to
Absolutely.
America, because I'm not the only one. Um, it's just one of those things. It really was that impression it gave everybody.
So the first bands that you were in, Eddie, what kind of music were you playing like at the beginning when you first started playing
Well,
in?
when we first started, it was kind of Buffalo Springfield uh, meets the Beatles or something. It wasn't heavy, but
Right.
and but it was rock. It was more like Crosby, Stills and Nash, but a
Yeah.
little heavier. And then we started. A lot of people said, because everybody in the band was Puerto Rican, so they said, why don't you guys? And Santana was big at the time, so
Right.
then we just started adding like congas and more of a Latin feel into the songs. And I had written a song that was very kind of Santana-ish. And that's so we sort of became a Latin rock band, but with Beatle harmonies, which is
Right.
because everybody sang. So we had great harmonies, and it was just, unfortunately, we got close to getting signed with Don Kirshner, but a couple of people messed it up for us, which happens. So
And was you already Silver Star? No, you weren't Silver Star yet.
no.
No. Um, so okay, so what happened? So I know you went to college though. Yeah.
Yeah, Rob's Community College. I was a music major,
Mm-hmm.
and I was good friends with JJ, John John French from the
Right.
band, and
Mm-hmm.
we always had different bands we were in. And I would come with stuff to play at his house that I was working with, and he would have stuff that he played with me, bands that he played with. But we never thought that we'd be in a band together. But then when the band broke up, uh, the, the first version of Twisted Sister, he called me up and said, "Hey, do you want to be in the band?" I said, "That sounds cool," because I wasn't in a band at the time. And we got together, and obviously it worked out.
Yeah,
And
pretty well for a
eventually, I
gazillion.
got D in the band, and that's when things sort of changed. We got into a heavy thing because we
Okay,
were
so
playing.
before D came into the band, who was the front man? Who was the front man? Was it
At
you?
that time, there was just four of us,
Right.
and we were taking turns singing lead. It was me, Kenny, the bass player, and JJ would do all the Lou Reed stuff because he's more of like a Lou Reed vocalist.
Right.
They're more of a talk vocalist than a vocalist. So the Lou Reed stuff worked out for him, but then all the other stuff, like either myself or Kenny would do it, and it was started to be a strain. And we were booking gigs, but there's a company called CTA, and this guy called Kevin Brenner. He was booking us. He said, you guys should get a lead singer. I know this guy who's in a band called Peacock. Peacock. So we tried him out, and he was really into Zeppelin at the time, and so were we. So when he joined, we started doing all this Zeppelin 1 stuff, communications breakdown and, good times, bad times. We did a lot of Zeppelin songs, Days of Confused, and it really worked out good. We were like a little Zeppelin band for a while.
And what kind of venues were you playing then, Eddie?
Clubs,
Uh-huh.
like clubs all over Long Island, mostly in the suburbs. Because in New York, in the city, they didn't really have clubs that bands could play in. Like, the bars were bars. They had jukeboxes or DJs or whatever.
This was in the early 70s? This is the
70s,
early? Yeah.
1976 is when we sort of started.
Mm-hmm.
We had this whole bicentennial thing. We used to put all the flags and stuff on stage, and it worked out.
So then Dee started playing with you, and how did you start doing originals, and how did you start getting into metal?
Well, we started covering, as far as a band. Once Dee was in the band, he wanted to do more of the hard rock stuff, like Aerosmith, Mott the Hoople, Zeppelin. So, Bad Company. So we started doing stuff like that, and it just eventually, we said, well, we wanted. Our whole mindset was, let's play 4 or 5 nights a week, so we can do this, and we don't have to get day jobs, which was always my way of doing it. I thought, if you want to make it, you can't just do it part-time. You got to really jump into it.
Right.
So this allowed us to, and then these started writing songs that really worked out. And eventually we start adding more originals. Like at first it was, 10%, then it was 20, 30, 40, 50. We started doing less and less cover stuff because people really liked the original stuff.
And were you getting bigger venues, or was it still about the same?
Yeah, we got all the big venues. We became one of the biggest bands on the whole tri-state area. I mean, we could get 5,000 people in a club on a Wednesday night.
Wow.
Same thing with Hammerheads. Wherever we played, it was packed. Like by the time we showed up, there was a line all the way down. We became like a tri-state, just one of those things. Everybody would. So everybody wanted to book us because they knew their club would be packed.
And were you guys making were you making decent money? Was your money going up as all this was happening?
Yeah, we were making pretty good money for those days,
And then how did you guys break through? How did it start to escalate?
Well, eventually when we got signed, we were able to just do originals completely. And we were still playing the big clubs like Speaks and Fountain Casino. I mean, these were huge clubs. They could get 2,000 people.
Right.
So, we played all over the big clubs, night after night, all over the tri-state, 100-mile radius. And, once we got signed, then we found out that in England, we were like huge. There was tapes of us all over England. And people said, you guys should come to England. So then we came to England, and that's when a lot of things took off for us. First of all, we got signed by a company called Secret Records. So they took us to England, and we recorded the Under the Blade album. And we did very well in England.
Tell everybody, I know that Tipper Gore thought that was violent, based on violence, but tell us what it was actually about.
It's about me getting surgery.
Not very sexy.
It had nothing to do with S&M. That was in her mind.
Right.
Maybe she wanted it to be S&M. But did you listen to the lyrics? I mean, just because you say Under the Blade, it's not about chopping somebody up alive, Just stupid shit. I mean, people can just. And it's funny because we almost voted for him when he ran. I think I voted for him, which I never thought I would, but that whole thing got so blown out, and all it did was make.
It was crazy, all those obscenity trials and everything.
All it did was make people want it more.
Yeah,
kids were looking for albums that said parental advisory.
Right.
I want that one. All you do was make it better. What did you try and accomplish? I mean, to blame some of the stuff people blame on heavy metal or hard rock, it's just so stupid. And I think if they took time to listen to the lyrics, they would realize not just because you hear a title, that you, right, oh, that's evil,
Yeah.
really, so
Okay, so let's get back to the band. So
yeah.
so you got signed. The venues are. Were you guys an overnight sensation? Was it a slow build? Was it what
It
happened?
wasn't an overnight sensation. Definitely. I mean, once people hear about you, that's what they think. But it was a
Right,
10-year overnight sensation.
right,
I
right.
mean, and when we got signed to Secret Records, they kind of went belly up. So we had to find another label. So then we had gone back to America. We were playing clubs, and then we got invited to do this show called The Tube, which had it was like a really big show in England. It was almost like American Idol or one of those kind of shows.
Right.
And we played there, and Lemmy from Motorhead, the guys from Motorhead came up and jammed with us. And that's when Phil Carson, the president of Atlantic Records, he was with Mick Jones from Foreigner.
Mhm.
And Mick Jones said, "Hey, I want to stay and watch this band because I hear every time I'm because he has a place in New York. He says, every time I'm on the radio, I hear about this band playing in all these places. So I want to see them." So then Phil Carson, who was the head of Atlantic Records, the president right there in the UK, he signed a few like successful bands like ABBA, AC/DC, Yes,
Hello.
Foreigner, a few, some mild success bands. Okay. So, he saw us, and right the next day, they offered us a record deal.
Wow.
And we signed up with Atlantic. We actually got 3 offers. So, but we decided to go with Atlantic Records.
And so
And
when okay, so
after that, that's when we sort of went back to the States. The first we did Can't Stop Rock and Roll album, we recorded that in England. But until we did Stay Hungry was the album that just blew us
yeah.
up, and that's how it happened. Atlantic, we started touring with bands in the States, like Blackfoot. And we did a tour for Stay Hungry. The Stay Hungry album was selling like 50,000 records a day.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
And We're Not Gonna Take It has 125 million views on YouTube. I've never seen anything like it. It's crazy.
Well, there's a couple of the people in the billions, but I'm not complaining. We got a lot of views. I mean, it's just one of those anthem rock songs. They don't get old. Songs like that will be around. They just last.
It's
I can't
also
tell you
a
how many
great
times
video.
I've been at a baseball game, and all of a sudden, We're Not Going to Take It comes over the thing.
Yeah, it is an anthem. Well, also a lot of political causes have used it, and
a lot. Yeah.
do they? Okay, so I know there's another issue because I know that Dee took sole writing credit for all of your music.
Yeah.
So I guess that when it gets played in stadiums and stuff, you don't see any money from that.
No, we all get royalties because we played on it.
Okay, but you don't get the
writer share. No.
right. But you all get claim royalties, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's
Okay.
not. It's not. Yeah, it's not a total screwing.
Yeah. Because you were a huge part in the
Well, the
music.
whole thing about, and somebody else asked me about that. Obviously, I wrote all my guitar solos. I came up with guitar parts. Every band is different. Eddie Van Halen wrote 90% of the stuff, but he shared it. It was his thing to say, "Hey, I'll split the publishing 4 ways," which is the right thing to do. Because I know I added a lot of stuff, and I wrote all my own solos. So you get writing credit, and a lot of my solos are theme solos, so they're big parts of the song because they're like a whole separate melody.
Of course.
But at the time, Dee said, "Well, the guy who writes the melody is a songwriter," and I wasn't about to argue about it. We were doing so well. I just said, okay. It didn't stop me from creating stuff. And obviously there was a lot of things that, I feel I should have got writing credit for that I didn't. But that's what happened. That's the way it went down. And, the truth is no. Now, how can one person write all the, if you're not even a guitar player, how could you say you wrote all the music? You didn't write my guitar solos. You didn't write my theme
How would
solos.
he write? How did he write? Since he's not a player, how did he write the music?
He was very good at singing it to me.
I see.
And I was very good at executing what he was singing. And until, he would just sing it to me and I would be able to play it. And that's how that happened. Because he could play guitar, but not really, it was kind of brutal. He just knew a few chords, but he would just do single. He knew exactly what he wanted. He would put it on a tape and listen to it. And he was very good at explaining it. And my daughter's very good at that too. Some singers are very good at explaining what they want.
Mm-hmm.
And he did write the melodies and he did write all the lyrics. And he's a great lyricist. And he did write all the melodies. I'm not going to take that away from him. But, when you're coming up with parts like, little stuff here, solo parts you should get some writing credit.
Well, especially when they become iconic parts of the song, of course.
Yeah, but it didn't happen. It's kind of a sore area.
Did you ever ask back in the day for it?
No. We were I didn't want to upset the apple cart. We were doing well. Everybody, we were all making money. I mean, I just didn't.
Right.
I figured, okay, well, he'll make a little more because of this. I didn't realize it's more than a little more,
Yeah.
So I didn't fight for it. Maybe I should have. But like I said, things were going well. He was coming up with a lot of good suggestions, for videos and stuff. And he's a very creative person, D. I mean, I'm not saying that he did come up with a lot of great stuff and a lot of great melodies. But, as far as getting him on guitar and playing the parts, he needed our help, definitely for myself and even AJ too, the drummer and the bass player, Mark. We definitely came up with, I was the one that had to figure out everything and sort of teach it to everybody.
And you didn't get any more money for that, did you?
No, I didn't.
So Eddie, when did it go from playing clubs to playing? I mean, you guys, it seems like you just catapulted into like stadium rock. I mean, how did that happen? What was it sudden? Was it what?
No, it was gradual. I mean, we toured with Iron Maiden when the Stay Hungry album was, and we did all of Canada and all of the United States with them. And that's when the band broke big, on MTV and everything. So you could say that catapulted our career, but it was partially the album, MTV, and then going on a tour with Maiden. And that's when we blew up. That's how it happened.
The video with Mark Metcalf from Animal House, the Niedermeyer character, that was a pretty brilliant conception. Was that Dee's idea?
Pretty much, yeah. He came up, him and Marty Kellner, the director.
Mm-hmm.
They came up with the whole storyboard and everything. Like I said, he's a very creative guy, Not everything he came up with worked out, but we always gave it a try. He came up with a lot of good stuff. He's a very talented man.
So when you guys traveled and toured and recorded, was there a hierarchy, or did you feel like you were a band?
No, we were a band. I mean, lead singers are always, lead singers. They have a disease, LSD. It's called lead singer's disease, They all have it. There's something, I don't know what's wrong with all of them. And even the guys that aren't even famous just have that, sometimes I meet somebody in a club band or a cover band, and the lead singer's he thinks he's Robert Plant. You know what I mean? Like, dude, you're not famous. You're in a bar and you're trying, you're imitating Ozzy Osbourne. Give me a break, man.
That's very funny. How did the makeup start? How did the whole glam rock thing happen?
That came back because we had stopped doing that because the whole Bowie thing was kind of,
Well,
you
wait,
know,
how did it start the first time though? How did you guys?
well, it came off the Bowie, about the Hoople kind of that whole scene, the glam rock scene. And
Who made the decision to do? Was it Dee who said, "Okay, let's do
well,
this"?
the band did it. The second version of the band, which is the band that made it
Right.
with me, we weren't wearing makeup. And then Dee said, we should wear makeup, bring that back. It's still cool. And we said, okay, let's try it. And it did work. Like I said, he had a lot of good ideas. At first, I didn't know if it was going to work because the glam rock thing wasn't really,
Was Kiss? Did you guys do it before Kiss?
no.
Okay.
Well, during this, at the same time,
Okay.
because they had already made it, Kiss, and so they were still doing the makeup, and so some bands were doing it, and then we decided to do the makeup, but the makeup was more like war paint. It wasn't really glammy,
Right. Yeah, you
And
had the lines. Yeah.
yeah, I did the lines. It was like an Indian, like a Native Indian, Native American kind of thing. That's the kind of look. I was trying to be like the Indian, like the Village People had all these people. And I'm not comparing us to the Village People, but I guess I was the Indian.
You were the Indian.
He was the creature, like he was the gene.
When you first started playing, did Dee not wear all of that? Did he not have all of that going on?
It gradually got more and more where he got into like that whole makeup. It was something that evolved, for all of us. At first we did it sort of glammy,
Right.
but we're all big guys. It didn't really fit like glammy. Like people would meet us and go, "Oh shit, you guys are big, man." Especially we had the boots on. We're like towering over everybody, So it just got into more of like war paint, which I think that's what really worked when we started doing that look instead of trying to be a glam rock band.
Right, because you weren't Bowie and Lou Reed. You weren't you weren't feminine
No,
men.
no.
Yeah, you were
I
big
mean,
guys.
I always say it was easy for me to be the cute guy in Twisted Sister.
I don't know if I've
The
told you
competition, I mean, yeah.
I don't know if I've told you this, but when I was a comedian in the early 80s, my before picture was Dee Snider, like that, because I would say that I was this Jewish girl and I dyed my hair blonde and I got a nose job and I did this, and here's my before picture, and it was Dee in all of his glory. That was my before. Anyway.
Yeah, Christina Aguilera sort of stole his look for that.
So
Patti LaBelle version song that he did.
So did you guys, there's always a little hierarchy, but was there trouble? Was it tumultuous? I mean, I know you guys broke up a couple of times, but when you were at the height of things and things were great and you were playing like stadiums and everything's wonderful, were you getting along, or was there a lot of in-house fighting and stuff?
I think we got along pretty well. I mean, every band has like, it's clashing moments. I mean, you're with 4 other men traveling all over the place,
Right.
You're missing home, and the egos are there, and there's always some arguments, but I don't think we ever deeply hated each other like some bands do,
Yeah.
I mean, we got pissed off at each other, but I don't think we never got into the hate thing, which is good because it made it easy. But obviously, every band has a band that doesn't have that. But there's some guys that can't stand each other, can't even be in the same room.
Right.
Some bands stay at different hotels. It's that bad. We never got to that point. And we had some arguments, but it was never, and nothing ever happened that was really messed up. So it was pretty good, I gotta say.
So why did you guys, the first time you guys broke up, what happened? Why?
Well, we had just come back. We were on tour for the Love Is for Suckers album,
Mhm.
which wasn't doing the numbers we expected it to do. And we're out on tour, and it wasn't going as well as we expected, and we sort of cut the tour short. And right after that is when we never really technically broke up. We just stopped. Dee, sent a thing that said, Dee quit the band first. That's what happened. Then after that, we just, we didn't think about getting another singer or something. It's just I don't think Twisted would work with another singer,
Mhm.
especially somebody like Dee. He's just, he's a very unique performer.
He
Um,
certainly is.
just like I just never thought we never thought about doing it without him.
The Rolling Stones can't go without Mick Jagger. It just
Yeah,
doesn't
it's
work.
just
Yeah,
one of. I mean, Mick Jagger's tried to do things on his own, and it didn't
right.
work out.
Mhm.
Some guys can do it, but some guys can't. They're cursed to just be stuck with their band unless they want to play small clubs or something like that. They can't go out and do the arenas and stuff. I mean, I
Right.
think even David Lee Roth had some problems on his own.
I think
And Van Halen was so huge, and I think when they split up the first time before they got Sammy Hagar, he went out on his own for a while with a super band, with all these great players like Steve Vai
Mhm.
and Billy Sheehan, but it just, he did one tour and that was it. I couldn't
Yeah.
do it again. And then
Yeah.
eventually Van Halen got Sammy Hagar, and that was a tremendous success for them. So, it's hard. It's hard to replace somebody. And I think with Dee, he was really the face of the band.
So Eddie, what were you doing when you guys kind of dissolved?
Suffering.
Oh my God. I mean, I can't even imagine after you're playing arenas and stadiums and MTV and it
Yeah.
was, so what was life like when you guys weren't playing
Well,
anymore?
it was pretty devastating. I mean, we all had to get regular jobs. It sucks,
So
especially
what did that
after,
look like for you?
huh?
What did it look like for you? What kind of regular job were you doing?
I was doing tech support for, it's because it was all computer. So I wasn't
Right.
going to get a job lifting furniture for like, a moving company. So I found something I could do stuff for computers. That's fine. It was a tech job. So, and I like computers and all that tech stuff. So it was pretty cool that I was able to do that for a while. And at the same time, I was in a wedding band that was very well
Okay, that's
known.
what I was going to ask you about because this is the part of your story that trips me out more than anything. That like people get married and there is part of Twisted Sister in their wedding band. So what was that like?
It was pretty cool. I mean, people wanted they would, it was a good selling point. That, by the way, this guy's in the band. So, we used to do Twisted songs for them.
Oh my,
I had to do a couple of Twisted Sister songs at these weddings, and they loved it.
oh my God,
So,
that's so
and
crazy.
there was a great band, great guys, and they were like big in the circuit. I mean, that we had lights and a road crew. You would think it was like a rock band. Some of them, when a wedding band gets to a certain level, it's big, and they were, we were making good money. So once again, that's the only circuit I hadn't played. So I could say I've played every wedding circuit, every bar circuit, the stadiums. I don't think there's anything that I haven't played as
What,
far as
what's the biggest concert that you've done? What was like
um,
the biggest
I,
audience you've played for, the biggest venue, the biggest something?
I think it was probably Grass. No, was it Grass Pop? I think Grass Pop was like 350,000 people.
Holy
It's in Belgium. Yeah. And we
And
were
is
headlining. That's another thing. When we came back, we were headlining. We weren't open. We weren't on half. We were headlining all the festivals. So we were
wow,
bigger than ever.
wow,
Yeah.
wow, wow. And what is that like the first time you walk out on like a stadium stage and is that
It
crazy?
didn't. It didn't suck.
Didn't suck. I bet.
I mean, it was. it's great. I actually feel more comfortable in front of 100,000 people on a stage, on a big stage, than I do in a club. Like sometimes when I jam in a club, I'm more like uptight because everybody's like right in your face, you know. It's like so.
Right. Right.
So
And
yeah, it was great.
how did your signature guitar come to be? I mean, wow. I mean, I love it.
Yeah, that was another thing that just happened by accident. It was our logo has a bullseye in it. If you look at the logo, and we had these amps with, and we used to paint pink circles around the speakers. So, you know, this company Charvel Guitars just started, and they were doing custom guitar paint jobs. So I told them, listen, I want a guitar with pink and black circles, and they sent me the bullseye, and people flipped out over it. I never thought it was going to become this iconic thing. You know, it's a really well, people that don't know my name know that guitar.
That's right.
They say, oh, that's the guy in Twisted Sister's guitar, you know. So I never thought it would become such a big deal. But eventually, apparently it did. That was the first bullseye guitar ever. And that's how that
Somebody
happened.
ripped you off, though, didn't they?
Yes, but we won't go into that.
We won't talk about that. Okay.
They know who they are.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just that they ripped off, you know, because we also, you know, we were the first band to come up with the motorcycle jacket thing with the band's name on the back, you know, RB for rock band instead of MC for motorcycle club. So that got ripped off by a couple of bands from New Jersey. We'll leave it at that.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. So how
And
do
they
you
know they were, some of them stopped because they knew it was so blatant, and some of them still continue to do it. But eventually a lot of people found out that they were ripping somebody off, another band off. So it's karma.
karma is karma? Yes, karma is
Right.
karma. So, okay, so then you guys got back together, and I believe it was 9/11, right? That got you guys back together. What
Well,
happened?
yeah, we did a benefit for 9/11 because they had one at Madison Square Garden, but somebody said that we were too inflammatory, like a hemorrhoid. So too inflammatory, you know. So then we said, okay, we'll do our own benefit for
Uh-huh.
the policemen and firemen, and we did it at I forgot the name of the place. Pretty nice venue. I think it holds like 5,000 people, and we did it with Ace Frehley, Anthrax. We had Anthrax on the bill, which was kind of strange, but and they wore a suit saying we're not changing our name. Like each guy had a letter,
Yeah,
a word.
Anthrax is not the band you would think of for 9/11 when
Yeah,
all of
for 9/11, it was
God.
Anthrax. Yeah, so
Oh
they were
my.
on the bill too. But you know, we headlined it, and
Well, how did you guys? It had been what, 3 years, it had been a few years, right? So how did the conversation start to even come together again?
well, after 9/11, Eddie Trunk was a friend of the band's.
Mhm.
I think he approached one of the guys in the band and said, "Hey, you know, let's do our own benefit," you know, and that's how it started. And we said, "Yeah, definitely, we'll do our own benefits since they don't want us to do the one in Madison Square Garden." You know, they invite us, so even though we were willing to do it, and that's how that came out. And it was an amazing show. I mean, it really did very well. We raised a lot of money for them.
Mhm.
Sold out, you know. And that started the whole thing about, oh, maybe we should get back together again. And all these offers started coming in because the show was so successful. And, you know, there was people who took videos, and it was just all over the place, and there was a big buzz. And that's how eventually we said, okay, well, yeah, let's get back together and see what happens.
Mhm.
And that's what started it. But that's what it took, I guess, a tragedy for us to get back together. Unfortunately, you know.
And so how was the energy in the, and then you guys kind of got bigger than ever, weren't you? Like
Right,
you had like
exactly.
a huge, what happened?
Yeah, it was bigger than ever. We were surprised too. We didn't know that would happen, and it did. It was like, wow, we're bigger than we ever were. People were dying to see the band because there was so many videos floating around on all over the internet, and people said, "Oh man, I want to see this band. I want to see this band." And that's what led to the whole, the whole retro thing just became so popular again. I mean, they're still playing so many movies, still play all the '80s stuff.
Right.
And
And
if you go,
I
you can
think
go
it's
to the
also,
Rainbow now. It looks like 1985 when you walk in there.
well, it's like a whole generation that didn't live through it now would get to go to those concerts that they didn't get to
Right.
around, right? So
Yeah.
they grew up listening to that music. Um,
Who knew? Who
so
knew?
what took you guys down? Why did you guys break up again?
We didn't break up. We just decided to stop touring.
Okay.
2016 was. We're still a band. It's still a business. We still, do things, but we're just not touring.
I see.
We're just not a touring band. I mean, Dee's out on his own doing stuff, which is good for him. I'm like, we did like 14 years in a row. Touring all over the world, and
Right.
I forgot how many countries, like 25 countries. So, we did it, and we just said in 2016 we did the 40 or F It tour, and that was on purpose. I mean, we could have kept touring, but we just decided to go out while things were still on top, headliners.
Right.
Not like some bands, unfortunately, just keep playing as things get worse and worse and play smaller and smaller places. And that's a drag, We never dragged the name through the mud. We just figured when we got back together, it was worth it because there was, the need, and the people wanted it, and we were
Right.
headlining. So it was definitely worth it. And that's how we ended. But we never really broke up. We're just not touring.
Do you think that, so would you still do a gig?
I don't think so. I
Why?
mean, I never say never, but if maybe for some charity or something, but
Mhm.
not like a tour.
Right, right.
I don't think anybody's interested in going out on tour again. It's time to enjoy life a little bit instead of working forever.
So are you enjoying life?
Yeah, things are getting things are getting a little better. Unfortunately, the pandemic kind of, especially when we moved here full time, everything shut down. It sucked.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's still a lot of places I haven't gone to that now I can finally start going out to these restaurants and places that I've been wanting to check out, so.
Right. You got there and you couldn't even check out your town. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So, all right. So tell me, all right. So before we get to what you've been doing since then, you got on Chopped. How did this whole thing happen with Twisted Hot Sauce and with Chopped? How did you get into the food business? And wait a minute, did I hear right? Do you have coffee now too?
I do. That's with Dave Elfson, but right now he's kind of not doing it for a while.
Okay.
I'm not sure what happened. I'm going to look into it. But yeah, I did like an arrangement with him, and I picked out some different beans and stuff to make a certain blend. So, but that's through Dave Elfson from Megadeth. That's his coffee company, and so I just have my own. It's called
Your own label, yeah.
Yeah, it's just Twisted Roast. Eddie Ojeda's Twisted Roast.
Was it
Dark and Twisted Roast? Yeah.
Dark and Twisted? Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I would like that coffee. So how did you get into the hot sauce business?
That was another thing. I had a friend that had he had a wing sauce out, and I kind of met him on the internet, and I said, hey, we became friends, and I started asking questions. I said, I'd like to maybe do a hot sauce. I said, because I like to eat cherries for health reasons. And he says, well, let's get together and do something. So we got together, and did the cherry hot sauce, and then I just decided to put out a hot sauce. It was that simple. You know, he came down to one of the shows. And then, you know, we would send stuff back and forth, and we came up with the right recipe, and that's how that started. You know, I just wanted to
Great.
have
I've had your hot sauce. That I can't do the 8. I can only do the cherry. I can't do the peach one. That 8
the
is
peach
great.
one's really hot. Somebody actually on Amazon put that the peach wasn't even hot. I'm saying, why don't you just take a blowtorch and put it in your mouth? You know, what do you mean it's not hot? It's like, you know, it's the Carolina Reaper. That's one of the hottest pepper in the world right now.
Oh, Jesus. And how did you get on Chopped? Because that's quite an accomplishment. Chopped is a huge show.
Yeah, well, they were doing a rock one with Lita Ford, Dweezil Zappa, and Kelly Hansen, I think. He's with Foreigners, singer.
Mhm.
So, you know, Danny, our tour manager, called me up and said, "Hey, do you want to be on Chopped?" Because somebody canceled out, and he knew that I was into the hot. I had the hot sauce, and he says, "You're into cooking, right?" I said, "Yeah," and I had never watched Chopped. I had to watch a couple of shows before. You know, I wasn't really as prepared as some of the people that were big fans of the show.
Right.
So it was difficult, but that's how that came about.
What did you make? What did you cook on Chopped?
I made tacos. Well, not tacos. It was like a taco-ish, open taco. But everybody made tacos. I didn't really make tacos. I made like an open face thing with
Uh-huh.
chicken and because you got to use what they give you.
Like, what is that called? Oh God, now I can't even think of what it's called. What is it called? The flat taco. It's got a name. Not
Enchilada. I don't
yeah.
know.
No,
Open
you're in
taco.
Spanish. What do you know?
I don't know
A
that. I'm
tostada.
Puerto
It's like
Rican. Puerto Ricans don't make tacos.
right, a tostada. It's a tostada, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So okay, so why did one taco win over another? What did you taste everybody else's stuff?
No, I didn't taste everybody else's. There was some jam, and it ended up being a big joke. You have to use this jam. It was like a jelly. I used a little too much jam.
Oh.
So I made a joke out of it. I said, "Well, I'm used to this jamming, not that jamming."
Well, was it fun to do?
Yeah, it was fun. It's hard. I mean, you know, you have to go there at 4 o'clock. Get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. You meet in the hotel lobby, and you're there at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
You know, it's a lot of back and forth. It's not easy. There's people don't realize this. Each person has 4 people with cameras in front of them, taking, you know, following you around. It's a lot of camera guys. It's like an army of camera guys right in front. You can't go through the front because they're there.
Uh-huh.
People don't see that.
Too many cooks in the kitchen.
Well, they were taking all but it's, you know, it was great. I mean, it was a great experience because I didn't realize what a big show it was. I had to learn how to do this in a day or two. I wish I would have had knew
Wow.
more about the show. So it was fun. It was fun to be on.
So since the pandemic and when we weren't going out to restaurants and stuff, what was like, I was making soup. It seemed like the first 4 months of the pandemic, all I did was make soup. I was making soup all the time. What were you cooking? What were you cooking during the pandemic?
Just like normal stuff. I didn't cook one particular thing all
Do
the
you have a
time.
specialty? Is there something that you are known for that you love to cook, or not so much?
Well, I don't know. Everything I make, I call it Eddie something. I don't know. So they're all. I call it the Eddie O whatever. You know, the Eddie O pancake. If I'm making pancakes, Eddie O pancakes. I just add my name to whatever it is, even though it's, you know, nothing.
Do you cook Puerto Rican? Like I had a friend from Puerto Rico, and she used to. It was a lot of rice, beans, refried bananas, fried bananas, stuff like that.
Yeah,
She used to do a lot of that.
yeah. That's always around. We always do that, but some of the stuff is really hard to make. Like you have to grind a lot of plantains and stuff. Fried banana, like fried plantains and stuff like that. That's always easy, and rice and beans. Obviously, you made some rice and beans. They can't not have rice and beans.
And there was some great pork thing too that I don't know what it was, but it was great. But
It's just pork. It's they call it lechon, but it's pork. It's people just make pork chop it up different ways and with rice and beans. That's
and
all.
are you a fancy chopper and stuff? Do you like have
I can
skills?
chop. I'm not super chopper, but yeah, I kind of know how to do a few little fancy things. Flipping, I mean, it's funny because when you do chopped, everywhere you walk, chef coming through. It's like, I was like, oh wow, I'm a chef.
Nice, you got to be
Chef for a day,
Do you do most of the cooking at home, or no?
Probably half and half.
That's a good deal.
I end up doing a lot more. I just, it's just easy for me. I just kind of do it. I don't think about it.
So you're riding your bike, you're cooking. What else are you doing during the end of this pandemic here?
Well, just, trying to stay sane, just not let it get to you. I mean, there's so much TV now, and as far as recording, I have a little home studio. So I was recording with some people, so I could send stuff you could do stuff and just send tracks. People could send you tracks. So now because of technology, it didn't stop anybody from making records.
Right.
Because you can still do everything through the internet.
So what kind of music excites you now? Are you still playing hard rock? What are you playing?
Well, I like everything. I don't just like, I'm very open-minded when it comes to music. But some of the stuff I've played on is, a lot of the rock people. It's rock. I get offers from people in the rock business or playing rock music. I mean, I wouldn't mind doing stuff, middle of the road stuff with anybody, but once you're in a hard rock band, that's what people expect from you, and that's what people ask you to do.
Right.
So if they want that, they ask me to do it. So
very important question. What are you binging? What have you found? What have you loved, or what are you loving now?
Well, I definitely binged Game of Thrones.
I've never seen an episode. Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
I know.
You can start binging now.
It's a good plan. It's a good thought. What else?
Just a bunch of shows on Netflix. I can't even remember the name.
Did you ever watch The Fall?
Something on Wheels, huh?
Did you ever watch The Fall with Gillian Anderson and Jamie Dornan? It's my #1 recommendation. The best series, 3 seasons. If you like, it's dark. It's
The Fall?
dark. The Fall.
No, I didn't watch that. I watched
check it out.
Schitt's Creek. What else? Strange Things. It's funny. I watched Strange Things, and I was telling people about it, and then it kind of blew up. It became this whole big,
huge
thing.
You watching something right now?
Huh?
Are you watching something now?
I've been watching like Sanford and Son lately.
No shit.
It's on the Stars. I have Stars.
Uh-huh.
And they have the Jeffersons and Sanford and Son, and I always liked those shows. It's so funny because they say a lot of things that they couldn't say now.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of things that people weren't so uptight then, that you could make jokes, especially if you're making jokes about your own kind. You can't give people shit for that.
Well, Norman Lear has big balls, and Norman did things. Those are his shows, and
yeah, I mean, All in the Family. But since Jeffersons and Sanford, I think Red Fox was incredible. So there's so many shows I didn't see.
Right.
And they did a lot of shows. I mean,
yeah.
I think he was something like there's so many shows in one season. So it's fun to watch, even though it's old.
Mm-hmm.
It's still a lot of funny stuff. with those sitcoms were pretty classic. So
They
I've
are.
been watching that lately because it's just easy. Or sometimes at night, if I want to fall asleep, I'll watch some documentaries.
Documentaries will do it.
See if
I
they got
just
some guy with a
watched a
nice
really
soothing
good
voice.
one called 1971. Have you seen it?
No.
It's
no.
on Apple TV, and it's all about, mostly about the music from 1971. It's
Oh, I
really,
gotta check it out.
it's like 5 parts. It's really good, maybe more.
Yeah.
Good.
There's
Yeah,
another one on called Pop. This is Pop.
I don't know about that.
It's just, I think it's new. It's pretty interesting about the whole pop world, and a lot of songs that were written in a lot of hit songwriters a lot of people went to Sweden to work with these hit songwriters. These guys wrote songs for everybody in this little studio. It's a pretty amazing thing to watch. I never knew that so many hit songs were written in Sweden.
I
Oh,
thought they were
you'll be
made.
shocked to find out the songs that were written in Sweden.
Well, last week Steve Conti was on, and Steve is in with Michael Monroe, and he's Swedish, and they do a lot of touring over there. And
Yeah,
that
they're humble over there. They don't brag about. They're not like Americans with brag. They fart and brag about it. Over there they don't brag. They just do it.
they just do it.
So
Well,
I did have 10. Yeah, I did have 10 number one singles. They're like, yeah, it happens. They're just cool about it. They're not like, hey, I wrote 10. I'm the man.
yeah.
Some people here could learn a few lessons from the Swedish people about just being a little humble.
So are you enjoying now that you're getting to experience Nashville? Are you happy you made them? I mean, aside from your grandchild and your son being there, are you?
Oh yeah, I
Nashville scene?
love it here. I don't miss New York at all. New
Right.
York is so overpriced. And, I mean, right now half the apartments in Manhattan are empty.
I know, that's what I hear.
Yeah, the prices have gotten so ridiculous. People are trying to sell stuff for half the price they pay for it.
Wow, and out here it's a total seller's market. The houses are going for twice as much as they were listed for in 2020.
Oh, same thing in New York. Everything blew up.
Yeah.
Everything was like $100,000, depending on what level it is.
Mhm.
Like a $400,000 house is now 500.
Oh
You
no,
know?
here they went from 1 million, like if they were like less than $1 million, now they're selling for 2.5 million and shit like that. I mean, it's crazy, crazy.
Well, there was always a bit of a better deal in Los Angeles.
Mhm.
New York just really outpriced itself. It's just, I saw it happening. Some of these real estate jobs. Saying like, this is ridiculous. Even if you own the apartment, the maintenance that you're going to pay, and the taxes you're going to pay, are still ridiculous. And that's just for like a regular 2-bedroom apartment. So I don't even know how people can afford to live there. Because you have to really be rich. And like, what about all the jobs that, the maintenance jobs? If people like can't afford to live there, or they have to live so far that they have to commute into the city and try to pay for parking or do whatever. And then that's another thing, like to take a train into the city from where I used to live, it's expensive. It was like $14 each way, to take the train. So if somebody has to work in the city and they're not making like 6 figures, that's
Kills you.
even hard. So I don't know. It's tough there. It's tough there right now.
Mhm. It is.
I mean, and a lot of the people in the city are moving, so everything up in the suburbs is blowing up. That's what's happening. So everybody wants to move out of Manhattan because it's just gotten so expensive.
My mother said it's also really depressing. She lives in the 80s
Yeah, I've been.
on Broadway, and she said like all the stores are closing down, and it's just really depressing there.
I heard it's like, yeah, I was at that apartment. That's where we did the interview.
That's right. That's right. You were at my mother's apartment. That's right. So have you traveled yet anywhere?
Just for my daughter's wedding, I went to LA.
And how was it getting on a plane and doing all of that? Was it unnerving or were you okay?
Yeah, it was definitely unnerving. Everybody was wearing masks, but they didn't like, there was no distancing. They sold every seat,
Oh,
and on the way back, there was this asshole in front of us with his feet up on the thing. It was like, and we were in business class too. And I'm like, usually people that pay a little more for the tickets don't behave like that.
right.
And now I hear all kinds of like plane rage, whatever. People are getting stupid on airplanes now.
Really? What's plane? I haven't heard about plane rage. What's going on?
It's something they call it air raid or rage. Just people are just losing their minds. The whole mask thing. So people don't want to wear a mask. And if
Oh,
on a plane, you still have to wear a mask, just like when you go into a hospital,
right,
you know?
right. Well, I hope they keep that up. I think wearing a plane on a mask is a good idea, even when there isn't a pandemic, because everybody gets sick on a
Yeah, a
plane.
plane is like what
Yeah, it's crazy.
you're stuck in a tube for so many hours. A plane is, I think you should always wear a mask on a plane, to be honest with you.
I know. I think I probably will. So, do you have plans to see your daughter again? Are you guys gonna?
Yeah, I'm going to see her in next month in Las Vegas, going to Las Vegas for a week,
Nice.
which, I'm still not crazy about flying, but, it's a long drive. So
It is a
I'd
long
rather
drive.
drive somewhere than that's what I look for, like places I can drive to in 3 hours. I don't want to go on planes. I've been on so many planes. I actually hate being on a plane. People still get excited. I'm going on a plane. I'm like, I don't give a shit about going on a plane.
Yeah,
I really couldn't care.
especially now. I
Yeah.
know. Well, Eddie, it was so great to see you. We met in like, I think it was like 1987. It's a long time ago that we met.
Yeah, a
And
long time ago. Me too.
just instant friends. And it's just always through the years, you've just always shown up for me and been wonderful. And I adore you. And it's
Thank
wonderful
you.
to see your face. You look fantastic. You really do. You look amazing.
Thanks. The, the years are adding up, but I try to just, stay active and, you know, eat right
So wait,
and
you
stuff
didn't
like
gain
that.
COVID-10 or you didn't gain weight over the pandemic? You stayed
Oh
the same?
yeah, I definitely gained the quarantine 15. Yeah,
Yeah.
I lost it though.
How'd you lose it? Because losing weight now is so hard at this age.
I just like been really watching what I ate, and now I'm more active, so I'm going out a lot more. So that's how I did it. I've always been like that. If I weigh myself like every day, so
Me too.
I do it. People don't, because a lot of people say, I said, when was the last time you weighed yourself? Oh, a year ago. I said, if you don't weigh yourself, that's not going to lie to you. Don't ask your friend, oh, you look the same to me. Like, no, don't, you know when you're fat, just like,
Yes.
and if you don't weigh yourself, you never, you can easily gain 15 pounds in 2 months without even realizing it,
I have
especially
12,
wearing
I have 12
sweatpants and stuff
balloons.
around the house.
It stinks. I find losing weight. I think it's easier for men. Losing weight as a middle-aged woman is a nightmare from hell.
It's always been a little easier for men,
I think so.
for whatever reason. But you still got to watch. You got to watch what you eat. Eat a
Oh,
lot less. I eat a lot less now. Huh?
I'm watching it. I'm working out, and it's coming off so slowly. It used to come off
I'm
really
glad I
fast.
was able to lose it relatively quickly. Uh,
Good for you.
so I'm on that path. But yeah, it was like about 15 pounds. I was like, damn.
I know. I know.
It's kind of sucked. But so now I'm bike riding a little more and doing more stuff. So it's and eating. That's the whole thing. Diet is everything. It's not just exercise. If you don't eat right, it's not going to come off.
Do you not eat at night? Do you not snack at night? Because I find that's the biggest killer is eating late at night and
Yeah,
snacking.
I try not to eat like, you know, I try to eat like a main meal in the middle of the day, and then something light at night. which
That's
they do that in some countries, and because then you have more time to burn it
Yep.
and just resist. You know, there's times I'm in bed and I feel like getting up and making something, but I just say, you know, I'll take another melatonin and like a melatonin gummy and say, okay, that's delicious. And you fall asleep.
Okay, I'll have to get some
The
melatonin.
melatonin gummies at night is I recommend very highly.
I have a thing
And
called
brush your teeth.
Dream Water. It comes in a packet. It has sugar in it, but it's like Lickamade. Remember Lickamade when we were kids? So it's this stuff called
No,
Dream.
I never heard of that.
Really? You used to. It was like
No.
the colored sticks, pixie sticks, and they had like
Oh,
sugar.
those things. Yeah.
Yeah. So Dream Water
That's
is
pure
like that.
sugar.
And it's kind of in sugar, and then it's got melatonin, and you take one of those and you're asleep in 15 minutes. Out.
Yeah, I have the melatonin gummies I take.
Gummy, I like the idea of the gummies.
And that's good for night, you know, because if you get everybody gets a little hungry at night, you get that little, but that's the worst time. So at least the gummies do it too. You get a little bit of something to eat and it helps you sleep. So
I like it. I'll be looking for them. Well, anyway, Eddie, thank you so much. And
yeah.
I want to see pictures of that grandbaby. And
Okay, I'll send you something.
thank you so much for doing this. Great
My
to see you.
pleasure. Anytime.
Take care. Bye-bye, everybody.
Okay.